After his father loses his life, a weak little lion is exiled from the kingdom, spending several years alone until he becomes strong enough to face the new king. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, The Lion King, from 2019. As the sun rises, the animals of all Africa learn of the birth of the new prince. Wanting to honor King Mufasa, the animals go to the king's stone, where Rafiki marks little Simba's forehead and presents him as the future leader. After celebrating, the other animals bow down to the little prince, except for Scar, who instead of going to the ceremony, decides to stay in his den hunting a mouse. While the big cat is playing with his prey, Zazu, the royal messenger, appears and tells him that Mufasa is coming for a royal audience. Because of the bird, Scar loses his prey and decides to devour Zazu instead, but is stopped by Mufasa, who appears at the last second. Upset, the king of the jungle says that he didn't see Scar at the ceremony and that he wishes his brother had been there. But the skinny lion is still upset about losing the succession to the throne to his nephew. Mufasa then asks if Scar wants to challenge him for the right to be king, and the younger brother refuses, saying that he has no chance of winning and that Mufasa will always reign. The current king replies that he is wrong and that one day Simba will take his place and become the new king of Scar. The next day, little Simba wakes up and calls Mufasa to patrol together. Instead, the big cat takes his son to the top of the highest rock and shows him the valley, saying that everything the sun touches is his kingdom. Impressed, Simba asks if his father governs it all, and Mufasa says that one day it will all be under his care. Simba asks if he will be the owner of that land, and Mufasa says no, replying that a true king only protects the territory. Looking at the valley, Simba sees a darker part and asks his father what it is, but Mufasa forbids him to go there. Just then, Zazu arrives to report that some hyenas have been seen hunting in the territory, taking Simba home while Mufasa goes to defend his land. When he arrives at the place, Simba starts walking towards the other cubs when a beetle passes in front of him. Like a good kitten, the lion cub begins to play with his prey, climbing up the rocks until he falls into Scar's den. Excited, the cub begins to talk about what it's like to be a king, and Scar takes the opportunity to ask if Mufasa has spoken about the dark lands. When he finds out, the lion tells him that the place is an elephant graveyard and that all the adult lions go there to prove that they are strong and brave. After listening to his uncle, Simba becomes extremely interested in exploring and goes to call Nala for a walk. But the lionesses are afraid of them getting lost and send Zazu with them. Halfway there, Simba tells him about the elephant cemetery, and Nala says they should get rid of Zazu first. Wanting to lose him, the two cubs start playing with the bird, running among the flamingos and zebras to block Zazu's view. After getting past the elephants and zebras, the two cubs hide in the tall grass and manage to lose the messenger bird, which gets stuck in the middle of the other birds. With the way clear, the pair of lions move on as they wrestle. Nala jumps on Simba and knocks him off a hillside, standing over the future king, who asks her to stop. When she looks ahead, the girl realizes that they have already reached the elephant graveyard and suggests that they go back, saying that they are far beyond the kingdom's lands. Excited by the discovery, Simba ignores what she says and continues on through the elephant bones until he reaches a cave. As he explores the place, Nala warns him that it's getting dark and asks him to leave, but is interrupted by a group of hyenas who surround them. Approaching from behind, Shenzi says he can't wait to devour the king's son and approaches thirstily. Just then, Zazu arrives and asks the animal to let the cubs go, saying that if they attack, they will start a war with Mufasa. Despite this, Shenzi doesn't care and tries to attack the lions, only to be stopped by Zazu, who smashes his claws into his face. Taking advantage of the distraction, the cubs enter an underground tunnel and try to escape from below, but they come out in the middle of the hyenas just the same. When the two are cornered, Mufasa appears and starts attacking the hyenas with total fury, making them all retreat. The Lion King then tells them never to come near his son again, and Shenzi says he will obey, allowing Mufasa to take the cubs back to the kingdom. When they are safe, the king asks Zazu to take Nala home and is left alone to talk to Simba, saying that he has put the future of the kingdom in danger. After a more serious conversation, Mufasa plays with his son to ease the tension. When the two get tired, Mufasa stops to look at the stars with his son and says that the great kings of the past stay there, guiding and protecting the current ones. In the middle of the night, Scar goes to the elephant cemetery to talk to the hyenas. Thinking it's Mufasa seeking revenge, the other predators prepare for battle. When he is recognized, Scar says that he heard about the famine spreading through the dark lands and that's why he sent two cubs to feed them, but that the little lions still came back alive. Hungry, the hyenas say they are going to devour him, and Scar replies that he can offer them much more. Shenzi asks what he's talking about, and the lion says that he can keep their bellies full as long as they help him become the new king. Scar then says that Mufasa must be eliminated and that when he takes the throne, they will finally be able to fill their bellies. Even though they think it's crazy, Shenzi and the other hyenas agree to help Scar, who tells them about his plan to take over the kingdom. The next morning, the animal takes his nephew for a walk in a gorge, where he says the lions find their roars. According to Scar, this is the only way Simba will be able to regain his father's trust. Believing what he says, the little prince starts practicing and Scar says he has to leave, saying he'll come back later to check on him. After his uncle leaves, Simba watches the other animals and tries to roar at a lizard, but all he gets is a meow. Suddenly, Mufasa's son feels the ground shaking and starts to look around, realizing that a herd of wildebeest is entering the gorge. Unaware that it's the hyenas who are causing this, Simba hides behind a rock and cowering, waits for the danger to pass. At the king's stone, Scar arrives and tells his brother about the stampede in the gorge, saying that Simba is there and needs help. Without thinking twice, Zazu and Mufasa head towards the cub, who is holding onto a tree to avoid being hit. After a while, the lions and the messenger bird arrive and Mufasa goes after his cub. As he descends, Scar asks Zazu to call the lionesses and manages to be alone with the two of them. At that moment, Mufasa runs down to the bottom and enters the middle of the wildebeest to reach the cub, holding onto the same tree as Simba. Before he can do anything, one of the wildebeest hits the king of the savannah, breaking the branch and knocking out the two lions. Just when Simba thinks there's no escape, Mufasa appears and catches the cub in his mouth, placing it in a safe place on top of the rock. Despite this, Mufasa is once again hit by the wildebeest, which trample him underfoot. Although injured, the Lion King manages to escape the stampede and starts climbing the gorge. When Mufasa reaches the top, Scar appears and just watches as his brother begs for help. Instead, the animal sticks his claws into Mufasa and scratches his face, causing the current king to fall into the gorge and be trampled by the last wildebeest. Worried, Simba goes down again and starts looking for his father, finding him already lifeless at the bottom of the gorge. Desperate, the cub screams for help and lies down next to the body. While he waits for the others to arrive, Scar appears and asks what he has done, blaming Simba and saying that now everyone will see him as a criminal of the worst kind. Frightened, the cub asks what he should do and Scar suggests he run as far away as he can, making him promise never to come back. As soon as the cub walks away, the hyenas appear behind Scar, who orders them to eliminate the cub. When he notices the predators, Simba runs as fast as he can, but ends up skidding on a bend and falls off a cliff. Even so, Shenzi wants to confirm that he is eliminated and orders the other hyenas to go down and check, but the animals get scared and assume that no one could survive the fall, lying to Shenzi that they ate the cub's body. A few meters below, Simba is lying under a tree and waiting for the hyenas to move away. When they do, the former prince climbs down the ravine and starts walking aimlessly through the desert. At the king's stone, Scar makes a speech lamenting the perishment of his brother and nephew, saying that he didn't make it to the gorge in time. Despite this, the lion says they can't do without a leader and takes the throne. After proclaiming himself king, Scar says it's too much work for one animal and says he needs help to keep everyone safe, calling on the hyenas to rule alongside him. In the desert, Simba spends several days walking alone. Exhausted, the little lion gives up and lies down on the hot sand. After a few hours, a group of vultures approach to devour him, but are interrupted by a wild boar that tries to hit them. After the birds take off, the toothy pig approaches Simba and the meerkat on his head decides to investigate, discovering that the little lion is still alive. Frightened, Timon runs behind a rock and hides, but Pumbaa realizes that he is still a cub and suggests that they take care of him, saying that when he is grown up, Simba can protect them from anything. When the cub gets up, the wild boar and the meerkat introduce themselves and ask how he got there, but the little one doesn't want to talk about it and keeps walking. Realizing how upset he is, Timon tells him that he can change the future and teaches him the concept of Hakuna Matata, the philosophy of a life without problems. While learning about Hakuna Matata, Simba follows his new friends to a totally new area, an extremely beautiful valley with a waterfall nearby. When he gets there, Simba says he's hungry and Timon tells him that he must change his eating habits, saying that he will no longer eat animals like zebras and antelopes. Finally, Timon shows how Pumbaa opens a trunk, exposing various insects that everyone approaches to eat. Even if caterpillars are not in his diet, Simba is able to eat quietly, growing for several years until he becomes a young adult lion. In the kingdom, the last animals leave the territory, fleeing Scar and the hyenas, as well as the drought that has gripped the region. From the king's stone, Nala sees what has happened and thinks about interfering, but is forbidden by her mother. Just then, Zazu arrives and tells them about the escape of the last herds, but he is interrupted by hyenas trying to eat him. As soon as he leaves, Scar appears with the rest of the predators and asks to speak to Sarabi. Even though Nala disapproves, Mufasa's widow goes to talk to Scar, who asks her to join him at the banquet. Sarabi says that he is hunting too much and that this is why all the animals are leaving the kingdom. But Scar replies that he has only improved his techniques with his army. The lion says that he didn't call her there for that and that he wants to give her a chance to become queen again, saying that the other lionesses follow Sarabi and that they reject him because of her. Obviously, Sarabi refuses the request, and as punishment, Scar says that from now on the hyenas will eat before the lionesses, claiming that they don't usually leave much behind. Refusing to accept this, Nala waits for everyone to sleep and decides to flee the kingdom to seek help. Taking advantage of the darkness, the girl tries to pass through the rocks without being seen, but Scar wakes up and smells her in the air. Wanting to know who is trying to escape, the lion begins to follow the trail and almost manages to find the female. But Zazu appears at the last second and distracts the lion, taking him away so that Nala can escape. Far away, Simba continues to live as if he were a small predator, eating termites along with Timon and Pumbaa. After spending all day gorging themselves, the trio lie down to look at the stars and Timon says that they are huge fireflies. When he asks him what he thinks, Simba tells her what his father said, that the great kings of the past are looking after those who are alive. When they hear his version, Timon and Pumbaa start laughing and Simba gets upset and goes off to eat some insects. In isolation, Mufasa's son lies down to watch the stars when a tuft of hair comes loose from his mane and falls into the nearby stream. In the water, a bird picks up the tuft and starts flying away, using the fur to build its nest. In a natural cycle, the piece of Simba's mane continues to travel around Africa until it ends up in the hands of Rafiki, who immediately realizes that it belongs to Mufasa's son, who by some miracle is still alive. The next morning, Timon, Pumbaa, and some other animals are walking through the forest when Nala pops out of the grass to try and eat them. Desperate, Pumbaa tries to run away from the lioness behind him, but she is extremely fast and he knows he won't be able to escape. With no other options, the warthog leads Nala straight to Simba, who gets in the way to protect his friend. Without recognizing each other, the two lions begin to fight until Simba is knocked down just like when he was a cub, causing the male to finally recognize his childhood friend. Excited, Simba says that she will love living there and that there is plenty of food, but Nala warns him that Scar is ruling with the hyenas and asks Mufasa's son for help. Still feeling guilty about what happened, Simba tells her that this is his home and shows her around. After seeing Simba's new kingdom, Nala is enchanted by the beauty of the place. Despite this, she asks why he has never returned home and tells him that Scar has decimated the kingdom's lands, asking Simba to defy his uncle, but he says there is nothing he can do to change it. Nala then says that Simba has become selfish and that it was a big mistake to come after him, and she leaves immediately afterwards. Wanting to be alone, the great lion goes for a walk while thinking about his meeting with Nala. On the way, Simba meets Rafiki, but he doesn't remember him and acts as if he were just another animal. Wanting to be left alone, Simba asks the primate to leave him alone and he replies that he needs to help him find himself. Thinking that the monkey is mad, the lion continues on his way until Rafiki tells him that he held Mufasa's son on his lap. Simba then asks if the mandrill knew his father and he replies that he still does, because Mufasa is alive. Rafiki says he will take Simba to him, asking the lion to follow him. Quite hopeful, the former prince chases the shaman monkey until they reach the edge of a river. On the spot, Rafiki says that Mufasa is waiting and asks the lion to go to the shore. When Simba approaches the water, Rafiki asks him if he can see and says that Mufasa lives inside him. At that moment, a great storm forms in the sky and Mufasa communicates through it, saying that he must take his place in the cycle of life and become king. Finally, Mufasa says that he has always been by his side and that Simba must remember who he is. Moved by his father's words, the prince decides to return to his kingdom and starts chasing after Nala. After several hours of running in the desert, he finds the female and tells her that they must go home soon, running with her until they reach the gorge. There, Simba sees what the kingdom has become and remembers his father's words that he must protect everything the sun touches. Just then, Zazu appears and is delighted to see the prince again. Timon and Pumbaa also appear and say that they will fight alongside Simba, promising to support their friend in whatever he needs. Together, they observe the hyenas' movements and Simba tells them that they can use live bait. As there are no other options, Timon needs to play this role and lure the hyenas away. Watching everything from the tree, Rafiki picks up his old staff and prepares for battle. In the king's stone, Scar talks to Sarabi and once again tries to convince her to become queen, but the female says that he is nothing compared to Mufasa. Annoyed, the new king goes after Sarabi and starts attacking her, but Simba appears just in time, ordering Scar to get away from his mother. While Sarabi and the other lionesses are happy to see Simba again, Scar is visibly upset and blames the hyenas for everything. After the reunion, Nala says that Scar's reign is over and calls on the lionesses to fight alongside Simba. Cunning as ever, Scar says that things don't have to end in violence and says that he would hate to be responsible for the elimination of someone in his family, just like Simba. Confused, Nala asks what he's talking about and Scar pressures his nephew to confess that he eliminated Mufasa. After he takes the blame for his father's elimination, Scar begins to accuse him with terrible insults and Simba is trapped on the edge of the rock. While walking backwards, the prince ends up slipping and almost falls, getting hung up on the rock. Just then, a bolt of lightning strikes the dry grass and starts a fire right below Simba. At the top of the king's stone, Scar sees his nephew hanging and says that this sight is very familiar, saying that when Mufasa perished it was exactly like this. Scar says that he looked down and could see the fear in the old king's eyes just as he sees it in Simba's now, putting his paws on his nephew and whispering in his ear, confessing that it was he who took Mufasa's life. Furious, Simba bites Scar's face and climbs back up the rock, confronting his uncle who accuses him of wanting to take his life. At this point, Sarabi says that Scar has always said that he arrived at the gorge too late, but now he has just confessed that he saw Mufasa's gaze. With his deception uncovered, Scar orders the hyenas to eliminate everyone and Nala leads the lionesses in a counterattack, starting a war between the two species. Far away, Timon and Pumbaa hide in a cave thinking they've managed to lose the hyenas, but they couldn't be more wrong. Suddenly, predators appear behind them and Timon has no choice but to attack them, causing the hyenas to retreat. On the king's stone, lions and hyenas continue to fight as the flames spread further and further. In the middle of the battlefield, Shenzi sees Nala and says she's been waiting for this meal for years, but the female replies that she's no longer a cub and that she's ready, so she goes after the hyena with all her might. From the skies, Zazu also attacks his rivals in an attempt to distract them, but ends up trapped and has to be saved by Rafiki, who uses his staff to beat the hyenas over the head. Despite this, the lions are outnumbered and Nala is almost defeated by Shenzi, but she manages to bite her neck and throw her off the rock. Like her, the other lionesses also take down the hyenas, who know they can't win and decide to run away. Watching everything from afar, Scar also tries to escape, but Simba won't let him and goes after him, leaving his uncle trapped on top of the mountain. With nowhere to run, Scar begs for mercy and claims that it was the hyenas who made him do it, calling them disgusting scavengers and stating that he was planning to eliminate them all, without suspecting that they were listening. As Simba doesn't believe him, Scar decides to appeal to the sentimental and asks for mercy. Simba concedes and asks Scar to run away, to leave the kingdom and never return, just as his uncle told him to when he was just a cub. Scar pretends to obey his request and starts to walk away, only to throw a bunch of hot coals in his nephew's face. Simba then goes after his uncle and the two begin to fight, ending with Scar falling from above just as he did with Mufasa. Despite the height, Scar survives the fall and meets the hyenas who survived below. As usual, the lion tries to deceive the predators, but the creatures have heard everything he said and don't think twice about attacking him, devouring the lion while he's still alive. Sometime later, it begins to rain and the fire is extinguished throughout the kingdom. With things calmer, Rafiki goes to Simba and crowns him as the new Lion King, returning the kingdom to an era of prosperity, just as Mufasa wanted. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe.